That's all right, isn't it? A nice chunky, some kindling there. Free bark. Hello and welcome back. I'm really pleased with that. That's, you know, just free bark I've got from the local log merchant. Plenty of kindling in there as well. Right, so throughout this year, I've been reviewing all my harvests. So all of it is going to be new footage in this video. So I've got quite a lot that I've harvested, and that's why I've said it's been quite a productive year, except for the first one which I'm going to review. So these are all the ones I have actually reviewed right the way through this year. So first up is the broad beans, and then I move swiftly on to the Mange 2 because that really was a good success for me, and so was the kohlrabi. These are the giant kohlrabi. And then I move on to the onions, sensu, and then on to the butter beans. They were a success, but there was a bit of a mishap with the storage of those. And then we've got some beetroot. I got lots of beetroot this year, and that was a good success for me. And then it's the potatoes and the Brussels. I had some really good sized Brussels there. And the leeks, that's another one of my failures. But that's the way it goes, isn't it? And then the kales, which is just pigeon food at the moment. But first, I've got to review possibly the most unsuccessful, but successful vegetable that I have actually grown. And this is the most successful and unsuccessful veg that I've grown, the Chinese cabbage. What I did is I found that I just couldn't grow one. The slugs just kept on eating them. And I've grown now probably about 100 this year. And what I did is just put them in between all the brassicas so that the slugs would go to the Chinese cabbages and they'll just munch on the Chinese cabbages and completely leave all the brassicas and any of the other delicate plants alone. So this is a clip back, I think it was April or May, you know, the time we actually start putting out all the brassicas. This was the clip of one of the Chinese cabbages completely getting attacked by slugs at night. So yes, this is my unsung hero, and again next year we'll be growing so many of these just to put in between. Now I did start to use also during the later parts of the summer pak choi. Again, that just gets devoured by slugs, and that's what it's there for. I'm not growing any pak choi. I think I've harvested one or two, and I may be able to harvest something off this Chinese cabbage, but again, I'm not bothered if I don't. It's fine. It's just sacrificial planting. So yeah, I did do the pak choys just because they're a little bit tighter. These Chinese cabbages, I've taken off quite a lot of the leaves, but they do come out quite big. If they get to this size stage, and not many of them did, I think I've got about 3 that I've got to this stage. No, 4 right the way through the year. They do get quite big, so that's why I use the pak choi, because that's more of a tighter plant. If I wanted to plant protect the lettuces or anything else that had the small spacing, I use the pak choi. So yeah, they are the 2 unsung heroes that have given me a good crop of everything else. But not any Chinese cabbages or pak choys. Right, back to the review. So this first clip is going to be my review of the broad beans, the Mange 2, the giant Mange 2 and kohlrabi, and that was back in September. And this is the kohlrabis that I picked back in September, and they're really solid still. So these are the giant ones. So here's that review now. Right, and the next one I'm going to discuss is these are the broad beans that we did this year. Right, so this is a bit embarrassing really, just to be showing you these. They got completely hit by rust, and at the same time we're not eating as many broad beans. Our diet keeps on changing and changing throughout. Every time we grow, every season, our diet has changed, and the broad beans aren't on the menu as much now. So yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to harvest these and let me go through all the different stuff that we've had with these broad beans. But like you can see, they've been highly affected by rust, as well as many other things. So I'm going to pull up a trunk and I'll go through all the different timings and what I would do next year. But because they have been hit by rust, I'm not going to plant broad beans in these 3 troughs next year, and we'll see if I do actually grow any next year. But let me pull up the trunk and I'll go through the timings. Right, so I got my notes, and just so I don't forget any of the timings, yeah, a bit more of a close-up of these, and like I say, it's a bit embarrassing, but it's not the end of the world. So I sowed these mid-Feb, and I then planted them out the start of May. Now, like I say, I can't grow broad beans in this area next year because of the rust. Now, if I do grow broad beans, these are 2 of the varieties that I would do. I was watching Lucy at She Grows Veg, and I'll put the short that she did on these down below. She grew autumn lights. She did the normal timings of February sowing and planting them out, and she's had a normal harvest. But what she said about these is you can also sow them again July time and plant those out to get a late harvest from them. Now, I've tried that once before with I think it was bunyards, and I got nothing. They just basically end up a bit like this. And the other version that I would try is Aqua Dulce Claudia, which is more hardier winter variety, so that can get overwintered. Now, if I was doing them, I would put a clip in now, but like I said, I don't think we will do broad beans for next year. But if I was, I would start them off in October in the standard trays. And as that grows, I would then plant it on into one of these. I think it's a 1 litre. Yeah, I think that's a 1 litre tub. And I plant it on into that. Now, because we don't do as many plants, I think we had 30 in these 3 troughs. I would then overwinter those in the greenhouse. The only reason is that anything that got overwintered last year, you know, from February, March, April and May, we had that much rain that it's better, well, especially for me here, better just to protect them in the greenhouse, keep them growing well, and then planting them out. So hopefully I'll give them a good start. But like I said, I don't think we'll do broad beans next year, just because this is the broad bean area, and we'll just have to go with something else. Right, on to Monge 2 next, and I've had a real good success with these. Right, so these are Beiju giant Monge 2, and they are really big. There's some real nice sized ones on here, and this has been one of my successes this year. It's the first time I'm growing it. I did one, I think April time, and that plant, they've been sowing, I think, around about the start of March. Now, that plant did finish quite early on, but with this one was started, I think it was mid-May. I did the wet paper towel method for the seeds, and I planted them up end of May. Now, this plant is surviving a lot longer. The first one I did was in a very large container, but this one is really doing and flourishing really well. Like I say, there's plenty of nice size Monge 2 on there, and I will be really starting to pick off this. I did originally have these plants down just for saving seed, but these are doing so well and are so tempting, and they're really juicy as well. Real good crisp to them. So like I say, real good success. And very large as well. So this one, I have saved the seed from the earlier plant that I did in the container, and that is now hopefully drying off behind the greenhouse. So if I compare this, I may actually take this size one and then show you this size against the, I think it's Horizon -2 over there. And I'll go through the timers with that one as well. Right, I pulled up a log again. Right, so I've got my timings again for this. So this is the Beiju and this is the Horizon, this one here. And you can see the difference. I would still say this is a nice sized -2. It does have a little bit of string to it, but it still is a nice sized -2. But when you compare the two of them together, this one is a lot juicier as well. And so these are our favourites. These are still very good, the Horizon, and we will be growing that one again. What I will do for next year here, I'll have a sugar snap there, a -2 here, and a set of peas maybe in that bed, and then we'll see what we do for the other two beds. So like I say, we'll do this again and I will split them up, possibly in timings, but only by probably a week or two, not that much, because this plant has taken a real long time. It's still giving out plenty of more -2, and it's the same for the sugar snap. They have both taken a very long time. Let's see, what was the timings? The timings of the Horizon, it was started off in April, planted out in April. I think near towards the end of April, when I did the garden tour then, it was planted out then. So the difference between these two plants, this was mid-April and that one was well, near enough start of April for the seed, and that was start of mid-May, and we're getting real good ones from the Beiju. Now like I say, it also may be a little bit shorter in its length of span as a plant. It can go over a little bit quicker. I'm not too sure yet with this one, because it's been planted in the soil, comparing it to the container, there may be a difference. Right, that's a bit of a waffle there. So yeah, there we go. Beiju, that's been a really good success. The Horizon has been a good one, and like I say, we will be doing 2 sets of sowings in this bed for the Horizon. Right, let me go and show you the kohlrabi and how well that's done as well. That's another success. But before I do that, let's go with failures in this is the green acre. It's gone. I don't know whether it's gone because of lack of water, heat. It's the same for this one, may survive a little bit, but I think I'm just going to harvest that one. So that's another one I'm not going to be sowing next year, is the green acre, in containers anyway. Because I have more rooms and beds as I stop growing certain vegetables, I may try these in some of the beds, but at the same time they're pretty cheap in the shops. Right, let's go and show the kohlrabi. Now that isn't in the shops. Right, kohlrabi, and that has been a success for us. Well, certainly the purple one, because that's the one we've harvested so far. So I did a row here and I did a row in that bed of mixed the purple and the giant kohlrabi. So the giant is still growing. That takes a long time to actually grow. So what I'm going to do next time in sowings is early on it's all going to be the purple, so we can keep on harvesting through the summer. And then May time I may start to do some sowings of the giants so that they can then go into the beds as replacements So therefore we can hopefully get those for round about September, October time, and we can then store them. The purple one doesn't really store, it's about 2 or 3 weeks in the fridge, whereas the giant, apparently that can get stored in sacks right the way through winter. Real Seeds have on their website that they forgot about a couple of these in sacks, and when they found them, you know, I think it was 5 or 6 months later on, they were still very good to eat. So that's how I'm going to change up my sowings next year, is, like I say, the purple one first, and then the giant one, like I say, in May, June time. But they've been really tasty to eat. We have them as matchsticks in stir fries, and we'll see how we go with the giant ones. I may look at this later on, and I may add in how well these have actually done, how long it has actually taken. Right, so I've just looked back at that clip where I said the kohlrabi, I'll be probably starting them in May. I've changed my mind. I'm actually going to start them probably July, and to the later part of July, because these, you can see, they just take over the beds. Now, I've got a row of kohlrabi and 4 Brussels sprouts. Now this bed's virtually taken up by all those, and all for a few bits of kohlrabi and some Brussels sprouts. So what I'm going to do is start sowing them in July, so that they can start taking up the empty space with hopefully the crops I've already harvested, because they are such a big thing, these giant ones. The purple ones are a lot smaller, but the giant ones really do take up a lot of room. There's so much kindling in here. Right, so the next one I'm going to review is the onions. Now, I harvested these onions back in, I think it was July, and these are the Sensu onions that I harvested back then, and they're really storing really well. Now, what we like to do is we have a curry probably at least once a week, and so we always have one of these onions in the curry, so it's really nice to have some home produce in the curries of what you're eating as well every week. So here's that review now. So what I did with these are the onions Sensu. I think is it Sensu? I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm going to put it up on the screen. But these worked out really well. This is them dried off now. I'm just going to start storing them. Right, so I actually started these off in November as sets. I bought them for half price. Now, I know you're supposed to put the sets in around about October time, stroke November time, but I actually bought them in November and then planted them up in the 9 centimetre pots in the greenhouse, and they stayed in the greenhouse right the way through till March. I didn't put them out until then, and I think that really helped me, and that's what I'm going to take from this, is I'm going to do that for every onion if I'm going to do these again, which I will be doing, hopefully from seed, but the seed hasn't arrived yet, so fingers crossed I've got enough time to actually sow the seed and get them going and get them back up to speed. I'm going to be keeping them in the greenhouse so that over winter, I mean this year we had so much rain that a lot of people's onions were rotting away in the soil, and that's why I think these did really well, is because I brought them out in March when it wasn't the worst of it, but they weren't in the wet soil for so long. And then I harvested them in July, and I got them for around about, I got about 40 from that bed, and I've been really pleased with them. Like I say, they're real nice storing onion they have been. I planted the distance, or the distance I used was 150 going across and 200 spacing. Now the reason why I did 200 was I was going to actually interplant in some leeks, which didn't happen, but I'm really glad I didn't do that. because I've actually realised that onions don't like shade, and I've looked it up and that's what everybody says, so that's the learning curve for me. So let's go on to these, and this is an example of what not to do with crowding out your onions. Right, yeah, crowding out onions. So these are red flow, the shallots red flow, and they've all been got planted at the same time. And what I did with these here and along there and here is I actually interplanted in some lettuces. It's a 200 spacing, but I decided to try and cram things in, and that's not worked. You can actually see the difference with these. These are nice large banana sized ones now, and they're ready to harvest, but these are still playing catch up because they got crowded out. So like I say, that really is a learning curve for me, and that is also what I'm going to take from this and how I'm going to do onions from now on. I will still be doing around about the 40, maybe even less, in this bed of the sowing. I still don't know how to pronounce that. It's on the screen again. But let me show you what else I'm going to be doing. Oh, it's nice to get back into the shade. I've got to keep the camera out of the sunshine. Right, so what else I'm going to do with the onions is, and those beds down there, I'm just going to do a couple of rows. Now, this year I did get the allium leaf miner. Quite a few times the flies were around the sowing onions, and I did have them netted. But any of the leaves that were damaged, I just took them off, and that seemed to work. I've had no issues with those that have been stored with any of the allium leaf miner getting down to the actual bulb. So that's been good, and that's one of the other things I'm going to take from this, is to keep on top of the actual leaves. So the sowing again will be netted, but all the other onions around the beds aren't going to be netted. I'm going to, like I say, have a few rows in those beds down there, but not a massive amount. And then up here, I'm still going to be having the peas and the -2 in these 3 troughs at the back. But the lettuces, where I've got them here and there, which are completely bolted, they're going to move down to the far end front troughs, because they get less sun, so hopefully they won't keep bolting during the summer. So that should hopefully give me enough space and no shade except for obviously the tree, but give them enough sun and, like I say, no shade for some nice large onions. So one that I am going to try this year is the Bedfordshire Champion. Now I've also got various different salad onions, and I think I've actually got the Zeebrugger one as well. But I've ordered so many seeds, I can't actually remember what they were. I've got so many coming. So that's what I'm going to do, is have a couple of rows, well, one row right in front of the peas and the -2. That way, hopefully, the -2 doesn't actually start encroaching on the onion, and it gives the onion some nice direct sunshine. That was a lazy man's load. Right, so the next ones are the butter beans and the beetroots, and that was all a bit of a mixed bag. Right, so that's the last of the Greek Giganti and the Zahar beans. So what did I do with those? I started those off with the wet paper towel method back in May, mid-May it was. And what I learned from that is I got real good germination, but at the same time, every 2 or 3 days, I have to keep on wetting the paper towel. The beans were just absorbing so much water as they germinated. And I nearly lost quite a few of them because I'd forgotten to wet the paper towel, and it really had dried out. It was crisp. So these went out, I think it was the end of May, and we had, like I say, the Zahar at the front and the Greek Giganti at the back. Then we had the British summer, the typical British summer, and it was quite a worry at times whether they're actually going to start flowering. I did 3 per each string, each paracord, and they actually flew right at the start. But like I say, then we had the British summer. So the flowers did eventually come out, and then I was worried about the whether the bees were going to actually pollinate the flowers, but we did. We had success in the end. So then I come to the harvest times. So I've done 2 harvests of each of these already. Now I made a real rookie mistake. I actually left them, as I harvest them, I just left them in the baskets for a couple of weeks, and the pods actually started to go real mouldy, and I actually lost quite a lot of beans through that. Now, pairing the Tsar with the actual Greek Gigante, where you can actually leave the Greek Gigante on the pods to dry out on the plants, they've really dried out really well, and they look really healthy. Now with the Tsar bean, I've let those dry out on the pods because I had the mistake with leaving them in the baskets, and they've actually gone a bit rotten. So that's what another thing is. I've got to learn that these don't seem to dry well, either outside or inside. So next year, will I be doing these again? I would do. What I'll do is I'll show you the actual harvest, what survived in a minute, but I won't actually be doing them next year. This climbing bed took a battering in the Storm Ashley, and the problem is now is whether I actually repair it, put big screw bolts in, or whether I take it out, and that's what I'm thinking I'm going to do. Right, so that's the Greek and the Tsar both harvested. I lost so many with leaving the pods on for the Tsar, and like I said earlier, I actually lost quite a lot of similar size, probably even more pods when I just left them in the baskets or the containers, and they went mouldy. So the Greek Gigante, I mean, if you got something like that in your stew or whatever you're eating, that's a hearty bean, and that it dries down to that size. It's also good for storage, and you can't believe that they actually will dry down to that size. And it's the same with the Tsar as well. I mean, these are some of the younger ones that haven't dried out yet. You know, if they're going to go down to that size, again, they're really good for storage. So I'm looking forward to actually cooking with both of these. So while reviewing, would I do these again? Yes. If the A-frame, the climbing frame, if I repaired it, I would do that again. But I also got to look at, would I do them on an A-frame that is as narrow as that? So the Greek Gigante, they were on the shadier side, and they've done pretty well considering that. And obviously the Tsar, which I've lost so many, they did really well because they were on the sunny side. So yeah, they seem to work okay in the same bed, and so narrow gap between them. So there we go. The Tsar and the Greek Gigante. I would do them again. I would probably do the 3. I did 3 beans at the bottom of each paracord going up, and that maybe is why I've got so many. Normally they say 2. I did 3 just to hedge my bets, and I also did a spacing of 150 between the paracords. Again, they say 200 usually, but I seem to have got away with it. But that also could have caused the dampness, but we've had such damp weather anyway, which could have affected the pods while they were drying out. Right, the next one I'm reviewing is all these beetroots. Now, I didn't have the best germination right the way through spring and early summer, so everything just got put into modules together. So I'd have when you multi-sow them, I didn't have just 5 of one variety. They got multi-sowing, and I've got a lot that haven't come to anything using the multi-sowing, and these are some of the real late ones that I put in, and I'm just going to leave them in and see what happens with those. So I did huge different varieties, got all different shapes, sizes, and yeah, I think that's 4 different varieties there. So I'm not going to name them all because there's just so many that I tried. I'm going to try even more next year. What I'm going to do is I did a spacing of around about 150, which they say you can get away with. I think I did 150, yeah, around about 150 in these beds. So I do need to do probably, if I'm multi-sowing 5 or 6 again, I'll probably do 200 to 250 even. What's this bed? This is 800 inside, so I'll probably do just three. So what's that? About 250, probably around about 225, 250 millimeters spacing, just to give them some room. It's really difficult also that I'm finding when pulling them out separately, because they were just so entangled that some of these I could have left in, but as I pulled out one, the roots are so entangled that it's a lot harder, especially when they're all clumped together. So that's one lesson I'm going to learn next year, is at least 200 spacing when multi-sowing, and probably, will I do 4 or 5? Now that's worked out really well down at the bottom. So yeah, I think I will do 4 or 5 again, but that spacing. But I'm really happy with the amount I've got now. I've just got to figure out what I'm going to do with them all. I'm going to keep probably 3, 4, keep about 6 to 9 for meals, and then the rest I'm going to be fermenting. Go and give that a go. I'm really excited to trying that out. That's the one with the brine. So I may have got the wrong terminology with fermenting there, but yeah. So yes, beetroots, I'm really happy with these, and actually doing so many different varieties that each time you're picking some, you're getting different flavours and different, a little bit of a different texture at times as well. Some are a lot harder than others. Right, so that's beetroot, and again I could have used some of the leaves. Now I've forgotten the name for this one, but that's just one. I could use all of these leaves in a stir fry. You know, there's some good varieties of leaves there. So with doing so many different varieties, you also get that with the leaves. Now, I've picked the wrong ones to pick up now, haven't I? Cylindra, and I've forgotten what that one is. But yeah, I could use, here you go. Again, more different leaves and stems that I could have used. And I may do. See how well they last over the next couple of days, because I've already got the meals there set for the next couple of days. Right, the light's fading already, so I need to crack on with these reviews, don't I? So the next is the Brussels and these Nadine potatoes, which I've forgotten to review. Right, so these are the Nadine potatoes. This is what we've got left of them, and there's some real nice sizes when I harvested them. I harvested them back in September, maybe early October, and they got planted out I think it was nearly 1st of March. I have to check, but I think it was nearly 1st of March. Now what I did was do them in one of the more shallow beds up at the top. So they're only 200 mil, so they didn't have enough depth. Well, that's what I felt. I had potatoes right up on the top of the surface, as well as right down at the bottom. So will I grow Nadine potatoes again? Yes, I won't be doing them in the bed. Not this variety anyway. I'll do those in pots. So, but like I say, nice big sizes on them. Really pleased with that. And I'll do them in pots and probably have them just over here. And that frees up a bed because the beds are premier space. Well, I say that. I haven't actually planned these beds. That bed over there I've planned. But that bed and this bed, I've just got a few thoughts at the moment. On this bed, I'm going to be moving these Brussels. So let's do these Brussels. So this is the Bridget and this is the Brendan. The Bridget is the earlier version. And that's done really well, had some real big ones off that in the last couple of weeks. And this Brendan is just starting to produce now. We're starting to harvest off this. Now you can see I did 2 of each variety. Now the ones that were in the sunshine, or more sunshine, like those 2 are up against the fence, so they get just a little bit less. These have done really well. So this is why I'm going to move these next year and have them in here. Again, I'm going to have the Bridget at the front of the sunshine and the Brendan at the back. I feel like that's just a bit of a taller plant. It is when the leaves come out. What I did is I just had them with bird netting over, which is not much of a protection for the butterflies. As you can see, they're still getting hammered by the caterpillars. I'm still finding them on there. So what I did was I got a little bit fed up with all the butterflies. It just wasn't working with the netting on there. So I just took it off, and every time I saw an infestation of caterpillars on each leaf, I just took the leaf off and put it over there where the birds feed. So yeah, they've done pretty well because I haven't had any damage to the actual Brussels. So yeah, I'm really pleased with these, and I will be doing them again. I'm going to see how they do on that side. But that is the lesson I'm taking from it, is to have them in as much sunshine as possible. Yeah, we really enjoyed them. Right, so we are losing light pretty quickly, and hopefully it starts to get a bit brighter as we go through these next couple of weeks. So let's get onto these leeks. That's not been a success. Right, so these leeks, I've got leeks in this bed and I've got leeks up at the top bed and behind me as well. Now these leeks are actually got sown mid-January, so they're getting close to nearly a year old. So that is one of the first things I'm going to review on. I did expect them to be a lot bigger at this stage. The ones up at the top bed, they went out in May, and these went out in June, July time. So I expected them to be a lot better. And you know, see these, same time, and they virtually done nothing. Now, I have got quite a lot of the leaves at the bottom here are quite mushy, and that's because they've had allium leaf miner. Here's an example now. So that's an example of the allium leaf miner pupa. So yeah, so I've got to decide what I'm going to do with these. Now the ones up at the top, I've taken off all the damaged leaves, but I am thinking, you know, this one again is going to flower. There's the first of the flower heads. So like I say, they are 11 months old already, and it doesn't look like I'm going to get much. So what I may do is just cut my losses and take them all out and bag them up into the household waste, so I'm not spreading any of the allium leaf miner in this bed. So next year I'm not going to be doing any alliums in this bed, just in case. And it's the same up at the top. Yeah, these have been a bit of a failure. So what I am going to do next year is, because we do really like our leeks, is do them in that bed. And that bed is going to be kohlrabi and radishes at the start of the season. Then as soon as they're finished, I'm hopefully going to get in a full bed of leeks, and they'll get protected with the proper netting. And fingers crossed that next year, when I'm doing a review, I'm able to be pulling out a proper leek, because they've just not done anything. You know, that's a leek that is nearly a year old. So the leeks have been a failure, but it's never a failure. It's just a learning lesson, or lesson learned, and that's what I'm going to take from this. I've had so many good successes right the way through this season. I don't mind a few failures, and some of the allium, the onions and the leeks that I've done have been quite a bit of a failure, but that's okay. Right, onto these kales next, and yeah, the pigeons have just discovered them. Right, so the last one I'm going to do is this kale bed. Now we've got cottage kale at the back, 2 blue dazzling and 2 red Russian, and then 2 cottage kales at the front. And one of the things I'm going to say straight away is these cottage kales have got really big thick stems, and what happens is now the pigeons have just discovered that they can sit on top of it and just munch away. And it's the same for these blue dazzle. Because they've been supported with the canes, they're realising they can just sit on top and munch away, and that's what they're doing. So after this, and while I'm doing all the bark, I will protect these again with bird netting. So these went out, I think they got sown in April and they went out in May, and they were protected with bird netting at the time. And also I had a lot of Chinese cabbages in here, which did protect them. They've been flourishing away, especially this cottage kale down this end. We got sun going right the way around, so probably 2 o'clock is round about here. So you can see that the cottage kale has really enjoyed the sunshine, and it's the same with the dazzling blue. That's really enjoyed the sunshine, but the red Russian, for some reason, I don't know why, that hasn't taken off, and it may be because it was a little bit shaded, I don't know. So the ones that we're going to do next year is definitely the dazzling blue. That's got lovely leaves on it, which we're really enjoying. So that's quite a, let me show you this one. That's a nice leaf for kale. It's quite soft and delicate and not hard like the typical kale. And yeah, that's one that we really enjoy in the stir fries. Whereas the cottage kale, that's a lot tougher. I might as well take it off. It's only the pigeons going to have it. That's a lot tougher and a lot more waxier leaf, you know, when you compare the two together. So that's what I'm going to take from this, is definitely going to do the blue dazzle. But what the cottage kale is it feels more like a tree kale, and what it's got down here is lovely florets coming out. Now we haven't tried them yet. I don't even know how to cook with them. I'm presuming it's going to be a bit like a Brussels sprout. Now Brussels sprouts, we roast those, so I may try that over this break that we've got. Try some of those. So yeah, that's the kale. Yeah, dazzling blue, that's the one we're going to be doing definitely next year. But this bed, like I've said, is going to be Brussels sprouts up to here, and the kales will be going along the fence troughs. So I've still got a lot of space in this bed for next year. Right, like I say, it's getting cold and dark, and I'll be cracking on with doing these paths, slowly filling them up with more of this new bark. I say bark, it's more like kindling to be truthful. What I'm going to do is take out quite a lot of the big, we've got leaves everywhere. That's from the pigeons, that is, they're just devouring them all. I'm just going to take out all the big lumps so it's a lot more even underfoot. Right, so next week's video, again I filmed that back in September, and that's purely on the tomatoes. What I did was I even had, I was very eager, I even had the tomato seeds ready for next year. I bought them back in early September. So that's just going, like I say, purely on the tomatoes. What I did quite a few different experiments of growing with them, so hopefully that'll be of interest to you. So, like I always say, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoy a break if you're able to have a break over these next coming weeks. And I hope to see you in the new year.